Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest in the series of inspirational double acts. I have to say, I'm absolutely thrilled. This is a very exciting moment for me because we're going to meet a couple of people who are doing and have done tremendous things. So Rabbi Yakov and Palatnik, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. I know you're very, very busy doing amazing things. Now, let's just try and get to the very basics, and then we're going to get to the double act element and the teamwork. So you are based whereabouts?
We're actually in, we live in Israel now, which we're thrilled about. And we live in Jerusalem in a neighborhood, sort of a funky neighborhood called Musrara, which is just outside the old city. We moved back a couple of years ago, and we have 5 kids, and 3 out of 5 live in Israel.
Great. All right. Now, you weren't always there because America was a major, or parts of Canada as well. Am I right? Do you want to just go through the story?
Well, we were spent first 13 years, we were in Toronto, Canada.
But we did meet here in Israel, so we're kind of like on full circle.
Yeah.
We started out, we met here many, many years ago. What year, when did we meet?
We met in early 1987, got married a few months later, and less than a year later, we were working for Aisha Torah in Toronto, Canada.
Where I'm originally from. I'm Canadian. It's a mixed marriage.
I'm American from Chicago. And we were there for 13 years, and I worked, really both of us, for Aisha Torah in Toronto. And we were involved in primarily a project, the founding of the Village Shul congregation in Forest Hill neighborhood. And we, Baruch Hashem, we had much hatzlacha, success there. Amazing. In working.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of success stories actually. You know, the Village Hill, the community there is, it's well known. It's a amazing
we
thing.
Started off, there was like it was us and 5 families, and none of the families were Shomer Shabbat, and we moved down there. And this is before Aisha Torah had any synagogues. There was no. It was always just very educational center based. So it was just an idea that to bring some families together and to start something completely new, completely out of the box. And it took off.
Amazing. Well done. Totally brilliant. Inspiring. That's only the beginning, right? Okay. So what happened? There's now what happened after that?
So after that, my husband raised millions of dollars to put up a building. Like the Village Shul started off in in sort of like in a living room, and then it went to a basement of another synagogue, and then it was a storefront. And then my husband raised millions of dollars, and we put up this 20,000 square foot center, and it's still thriving. But we got to the point where we're kind of like, we're like start something from nothing kind of people. So we had built it up to the point where we could really hand it off to another excellent Aish rabbi. And then we moved to the States to try to help communities there.
Okay. So where was the next?
After that was 4 years in Denver, Colorado. And then approximately, about another 12 years in the Washington, D.C. area, where I became the director of Aisha Torah in Rockville, Maryland, suburban Washington, D.C. But it was during that time that my wife got an idea. I'm going to make a women's movement. So that kind of changed our life and changed the Jewish world.
Wow. And that internationally, Laurie, is probably what you're known best for sure. You know, I know people from around, people who speak with accents like mine, part of the world, who have been on your trips and definitely watched your videos and the seminars and everything. So you want to talk a bit about what Momentum is and what it does. It's a real centerpiece of Jewish growth and education. Go for it.
Thank you. So I'm the founding director of Momentum, which started in 2008. I gathered 7 other women together because I had been speaking around the world and I saw communities were not going in the right direction. So I took 7 women, very, very eclectic women, half Shomer Shabbat, half not, half Democrat, half Republican. And we went away to talk about what could we do to really make a game changer initiative for the Jewish world. And we came up with many ideas. And this idea, this kind of like a birthright for mothers, rose to the top, and it took off like a rocket. I've been involved in many initiatives over the years, and this one just captured everybody's imagination. You influence the influencer. So the first year it was 2009, we brought 300 women. And then it went to 600, 900. And then the Israeli government called us. Who are you? What are you doing? They said, double your numbers, get into Eastern Europe, and we'll help back you. And we've now brought 20,000 participants from 32 countries.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean,
so they really sign up for not just the trip to Israel, they sign up for a 1 year momentum year of growth. And so it begins with the 8 days, which is transformational in Israel. And then there's a 1 year follow-up because we partner with over 250 organizations around the world, including the UK.
That's just unbelievable. I've seen some of the pictures and some of the ceremonies and they're just massive. They are absolutely.
It's been incredible. And obviously in 2020, there were no trips to Israel, but we took off online. And instead of inspiring 3,000 women a year, we're now reaching 3,000 a day.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Can I ask a totally unscheduled question, but do you have like a standout moment? A kind of a picture or an event where you're like, oh my gosh, this is it.
So I have to tell you that the standout moment for me that just came to my mind was this past year, surprisingly, because I was chosen to light one of the 12 torches on Yom Ha'atzmaut, on Israel's Independence Day, which is a very big deal in Israel to be a torch lighter. It's kind of like playing the Super Bowl. And there's one torch of the 12, each one represents one of the tribes of Israel. And one of the torches is been designated about 3 years ago for the diaspora. And I was asked to light that torch during a time when everybody was in quarantine here. So it got huge viewership. And we also momentum blasted it out over internationally. And I felt the privilege of representing Jewish mothers all over the world who needed to be strong during this time in order to keep the family together, to weather these challenges.
That's amazing. Like, it's so important to have something, a women's focus, women's based learning and growing in the right way. It's just so great that you've been able to see that ahead of time. It sounded like, right? You've basically seen it ahead of time really, and moved with it.
It says that God sends the solution even before the challenge, and we really feel that again, strengthening the mother, that you inspire mother, you inspire family, and if you inspire enough families, you inspire community, and if you can inspire enough communities, you can change the world, and that's really the theory of change. And we see based on our data that it's really making a huge difference.
Great, unbelievable. You should be totally proud and get that energy and keep going with it.
Thank you.
Keep going with it. Let's move on to the double act part of this. So you've worked together in various different spheres. I can see that the Chicago and Canada connection here, coming strong. What do you say in terms of best tips for working together?
Well, for rabbinical people that are working in Avodas HaKodesh, I'll tell you what worked for us. I can't give advice to other people. I can only share what's worked for us. And that was at the beginning of our marriage that we learned together. And it was primarily that I had been in yeshiva for many years. And I could say that I taught over the Chumash and Parsha by Parsha, or Rabbi Noach Weinberg's 48 Ways. But it was also my wife taking her life experience and maybe a woman's point of view and bringing it more down to earth, more into the present generation, and deepening even my understanding of what we were learning or what I was teaching over. And I think this is very important in our relationship and the way that we developed professionally, because we were really on the same page. We had learned together, we had the same hashkafa, and many years later, we still talk about things that are hashkafa oriented, and we both work it out together. I think both of us would have to say, there's no one that so perfectly matches our own hashkafa as my spouse does. Mm-hmm. And I do want to add one other point to this. I've actually heard this from Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky, that he thought it was much better that the men should be teaching men and women should be teaching women. whether you're talking about a college campus or people that are more mature. And it puzzles me greatly that in the frum world, men somehow feel that their wife cannot do a better job than they would. It's more proper that their wife should be teaching women in the community, or the young women are on a college campus. And whatever the excuses are, they're just excuses. Your wife can share, she's intelligent, she knows these things, she's going to do better than her rabbi husband in most cases in teaching women.
Right.
That's, I think that's the foundation of it. And it's something that's grown through our marriage, that we're always talking to each other about these important things.
Right. So being on the same page and learning together. And it sounds like recognizing each other's talents and knowing even when to step back, right? When to say, you might do a better job. You can bring something to the table here.
Yeah, very much.
And being on the same
Michael
philosophical
really
page.
invested in me. Like, he had been sitting and learning at Rabbi Noah Weinberg's feet for 10 years. And I had been religious for a few minutes, well, a year. And he saw that I had a gift for communication. My background's in advertising. I always say I'm still in advertising. I just have a better product now. So he really invested in our first years of our marriage in really, when you say learn together, he really taught me. And I took everything in, but he always said, as he was explaining, he says, I don't know how to say this to women, but you will know how to say this to women. So I was able to take the wisdom that he had and to adapt it for women. And Hashem gave me a certain personality and a gift for communication. And so really, it's everything that anybody's been inspired by in all the years, whatever I do, it's really credit to my husband.
Beautiful to hear. Beautiful to hear. The sign of a real team over here. Another question, if it's okay, which is, we're going to talk about in a second cultivating a team around you, which you've been tremendously successful, as you said before, at doing. But what happens within a team if people disagree on something? I know people are being stretched by COVID. I know their stress levels are probably a little bit higher than they wish they would be. What do you have advice in terms of people who may disagree on little things, or sometimes even bigger than little things? And how do you tone that down? How do you cope with that?
Is this in a professional environment or in a marriage?
I would say both.
Well, I can speak professionally. I have about 40 people who work for Momentum around the world, and we worked very closely together. And obviously during 2020, we always do Zoom because we work around the world. Our head office is really at Rockville, Maryland, but our Israel team is growing tremendously. So I think that it would have been easier when I went away in 2008 with those 7 other women if we were all alike. We were all religious, we're all rich, we're all the same age, if we were alike, but it wouldn't be momentum. We wouldn't have succeeded the way we succeeded, because one of our founding values is achdut v'lo achidut, which is unity without uniformity. It means it's good that we disagree, that we have different perspectives, but if we share the same values and we share the same goal. So if you're always going back to that touchstone of values and you're always going back to that goal, the tension of the differences actually brings out the best and the potential of what you're trying to achieve.
If I could speak a little bit to marriage and disagreement.
Yeah, go for it.
Yes, I'd like to speak.
It's happened a couple of times.
I only know about it theoretically as a rabbi giving advice to other people. It's not something that's happened in our marriage even once. But when I talk to married men, I have a piece of advice for them. And it's this, that if you wait 24 hours, you wait 24 hours before really expressing your anger or your displeasure with your wife on something she did or said, that it'll be much better 24 hours later. And when I've given this advice to audiences really around the world, the men were unanimous in telling me that's impossible to do, because if I wait for 24 hours, I'll forget what happened. And the women and the more emotionally mature men start giggling and laughing, because if you're going to forget it in 24 hours, why are you making such a big deal about it now? And most of the men are saying, I can't do that, Rabbi. If I wait 24 hours, I'll forget. and the wrong will be forever unavenged. Okay. And if you wait 24 hours, you'll have a more pleasant way of talking about it. And you might decide you can be mavatir most of the time. And the rare times where it does need to be talked about, you'll talk about it in a productive way. Okay, so that was marriage and that was professional.
Brilliant, really, really brilliant. Okay, let's just do the last thing, which is, we've got that, you mentioned it before, cultivating a team around you. You talked about different personalities and getting on and teamwork and kind of realizing their values and what they bring to the table. But in terms of making or creating a team around you, how do you do that? I think Momentum has been unbelievable in doing that. But we're really asking here for trade secrets, nothing less. How do you do such a thing?
So I used to think that if somebody called themselves a consultant, it means that they really didn't have a job, and they made a card that said consultant on it. And I was like, I'm not giving you money. But it turns out that people who are really wise in different areas, and you can hire them as consultants, it's invaluable. I can't say every consultant we've ever hired has been like hit it out of the park, but the ones who did became game changers for us. So we bring in consultants to facilitate our board retreats or our staff retreats, to give us HR consultation, wisdom. We bring in people who are excellent at what they do to help us to raise the bar. And I think that's been invaluable. We also, one of our founding values is, if we work together, we can do so much more. So we always work in partnership. And we have, again, these 250 partner organizations around the world. They are from the spectrum of the Jewish world. Actually, we're very data driven. So 52%, so 48% of them are really classic outreach Jewish organizations. And 52% of them are JCCs and federations and initiatives, the Jewish Agency, the Sachnut. And we work with anybody who's doing good work for the Jewish community, come under the umbrella of the Jewish woman, again, with the same values, the same source of Torah Chaim, of Torah wisdom, and we can do more together. And Jewish organizations often look at each other, you're my competition. And we've been trying to, and we're seeing change, to show people you're not their competition. They're not your competition, they're your partner. And they have strengths that you don't have. And if we come together, how much more we can do. And that sort of philosophy is what we have on our professional team, on our lay board, which is a very involved board. They're not a board just in name only, and they come together once or twice a year to sign off for legal reasons. They are very engaged, very involved. They sit on committees, education committees, marketing committees. They really are very much part of our success. So we are eclectic, but again, always going back to that touchstone of the same goals and values.
Amazing. And can I just add, dare I say, it takes a lot of humility to be able to reach out to a consultant and say, look, you have expertise, and I want to, I need that. That very much comes across. One of the 48
ways my husband taught me, and from Reb Noach, is to know what you know. Like it's to really to know your place, to know what your strengths are, and to know what your strengths are not. So I believe that I have a talent as a leader, but I have very, very poor management skills. Not everybody who's a leader can be a manager. Not everybody who's a manager can be a leader. So I brought together, we were able to search out and bring on, his name is Ben Perry. He's not only a man in a women's organization, he's third generation North Tel Aviv, if you understand. And he brought in unbelievable managerial experience, and really like, if it wasn't for Ben, I don't know what we would have done when the Israeli government came calling, because he's Israeli and he understands and can translate that. So my goal, like the first trip, when we first started doing Momentum, I literally did everything except drive the bus. Like I wore every hat. And if they would have taught me how to drive the bus, I would have driven the bus. Most of the trips now, when we do the trips to Israel, I'm not even on. They don't even meet me. And that to me is success. Because a movement cannot be dependent on a person. If a movement is depending on a person, when that person is not there anymore, then it can fall apart. So this is my goal. I said, even when these 7 other women gathered together, I said, our goal, whatever we come up with, is that we're footnotes in that movement. We want to create social change. And they'll go, well, who started this? I don't know. Like, we're a footnote, because the movement has to be greater than any person.
Brilliant. Absolutely. I have to say, inspiring and brilliant, just as we expected. It's just, firstly, thank you so much for your time. It's just so great to meet. I'm going to call you 2 torchbearers, if that's okay. Yeah, both literally, 1 literally, but 2 absolutely figuratively. Like, you've had a lot of success, and clearly it's come firstly from within your own selves, and then as a unit, and then you've radiated that outwards. Like, you should have a lot of more success. Please God, so we look forward to hearing continued hatzlacha and amazing things. Just keep it up. Keep doing the amazing work that you're doing. Like, really, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.